Hi, everyone. Good evening. I know we're between you and your evening tea, and it's been a long day, but that's literally prepping for the future. We got our photos done before the panel ended. I'm really excited to be with you today. I have an absolutely fantastic panel. These are people who literally ushering in the future. So thank you for showing up. I have never doubted Dr. Anurag Batra's ability to pack a room. It's wonderful to see you all in person. And I say that for all my panelists who've been amazing, who've come in not just from Delhi and NCR, but have actually flown in. We're celebrating something really, really important today. These are some of the brightest minds, and you hear a lot about crypto today. And I'm so glad that discussions are happening on technologies of the future. So we're discussing something truly amazing. And that's a debate that we've had in academia. We've had that on campus. How do you really determine how much of technology is good technology? What happens when you have technology intervening in all our spaces? How we live, how we play, how we work. And therefore, no one else but better to have entrepreneurs of today who've actually chosen the path and who are not just creating new brands and products, but they're building brands with purpose. So when you think of technological advancements, you largely think of cars and you think of vehicles. And yes, we've got representation from electric vehicles as well. But there's an India, and you're increasingly hearing conversations now about Bharat. So we've got an amazing fintech solution also that's doing Bharat ATM. These are people who are not just looking at bridging the digital divide, but they're also examining key questions of who gets left behind. So very often we're accused of preaching to the converted. We're very often told that you gather the same people in the room and you create echo chambers. So what happens to people who are not here today? Who speaks for them? Who's creating products for over 60% of India who's not in urban centers? There are a couple of things which are worth celebrating: the India Stack, the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity. About 4.6 billion people across the world are now connected. 93% of them own mobile phones, and the number of smartphones is only going to increase. Many of these technologies and many of these innovations have ushered in a new revolution of sorts. And that's why I've got a set of amazing people today to discuss some of these questions, who will tell you why they're doing what they're doing. I request all my panelists to make about a 2-minute opening statement. Feel free to respond. My moderator and my friend on the dais is already introduced, but just a line more. And then we start with Pranav. Pranav's been the co-founder of the WorldGrad. It's an education firm that focuses on overseas education, and that's making education accessible for students. Prior to starting WorldGrad, Pranav spent time in management consulting firm, the Pantheon Group, which is now a part of EY, and with a Chicago-based venture capital fund, helping them set up in India. He graduated, of course, from my alma. Do you believe that we're looking at dehumanizing education because of too much tech, or do you see technology truly bridging the divide? And I don't just speak for India. You know, after COVID, everything changed, right? So there's a whole new perspective of how we will reconcile education, what is the part that state has to play, and what is the intervention that you're making. Over to you.
You know, technology definitely has a role to play in democratizing education. At the same time, what we are trying to do, whilst we are trying to increase the access for, and we are working in a section, segment which focuses on overseas education, because I think that's still a very, very relevant and a very strong sort of demand that exists in the country, and that's untapped and so sort of goes unserved to a great extent for multiple reasons. But where do you draw the line in terms of, yes, technology helps you increase access, but at the same time, small example, one of the panels earlier today mentioned the question was, who's been your guru in the last 30 years of your career? And he said, my professor at IIT Bombay, who taught me humility and how passionate he was after so many years. And technology is not going to teach you that. So I'll sort of leave with that. But I think, yes, technology has a role to play in education in terms of democratizing, in terms of making education more efficient. At the same time, you cannot remove that element of humanness which exists between a teacher and a student. I think that's very, very important.
Ujjwal, very, very interesting conversations around markets, access, finance, and you come from the financial capital of the country. So why don't you tell us about, the experiences, about your vision where you're trying to build equality and access to markets in India, and some of the key trends that we're making. Also, it's very interesting how we're also bucking trends in many, many ways.
I'll talk about some stats actually. I mean, we have more crypto investors right now than equities investors. I mean, put that to perspective. We have lesser demat accounts, but we have more crypto wallets in the country right now. So that's the uniqueness about India. But coming from the investment technology space, I'll tell you one thing. So the India Aadhaar stack, what it has done to banking, to make banking accessible, this is the same thing that is happening with broking industry. So if you look at the trends of broking accounts India is creating, in last 2 years, we have created more broking accounts than ever. So you can see the trend in terms of broking account expansion. And one of the reasons for that is that India, for good, is realizing that savings money need to go into financial assets for long-term wealth creation. And that has gone mainstream. Like, we know for the fact that even the most smartest people in the country with huge amount of savings money, they end up putting money in traditional FDs, recurring deposits, real estates, which largely does not create sustainable wealth, like meaningful wealth in the long run. Now, people are getting smarter now, so they are creating broking accounts and they are getting into equities. But the problem with equities market, especially broking accounts, is that it has a lot of adrenaline rush. You just go open a broking account, end up buying stocks because some friends told you on WhatsApp, or you think that you know the markets. But the problem is that 75% demat accounts are inactive in India for a very good reason, that it is very difficult to make money in markets sustainably, systematically. What we do as a platform enabler is that for the first time, we have got the best of what Ultra HNI would get, especially portfolios, and make that accessible on the broking platform. And it's a very deep tech value chain. So what we do is, on one side, we bring in some of the best fund managers, portfolio managers in the country. They create portfolios. And on the broking side, we are integrated with every broker in the country, so that retail investors who opens a broking account can access these premium portfolios and they can replicate in their account. So which means that a broking account is not looked purely for trading now, it is looked for sustainable wealth creation through these curated portfolios. So that's what we have made equities ETF go mainstream in India. And we believe that before crypto actually goes mainstream, equities should go mainstream, because that's how the savings money should go. So yeah, that's what we are really excited about. The market opportunity is huge. We are crossing 100 million broking accounts in India. We'll touch 300 million. And I think it's a huge market. Yeah.
I now turn to Ram. Ram has a very, very interesting story to tell. He's the CEO of Mahagram. And we discussed and we touched upon very briefly about what happened when Jio entered the market and the cost of data tariff came down. India started using a lot more data than ever before. And I remember a time when we were barely at 15% connected. So even with the double counting of numbers today, our internet penetration numbers are looking wonderful. And this is really the problem that we're trying to still solve for, Ram, when demonetization happened. So Mahagram is a fintech focusing on the alternative banking and payments technology. And he's catering to the Bharat that we all love to talk about, but are still trying to wrap our heads around what we can do for digital villages, what can we do in terms of solutions. Mahagram is running a rural assisted and neo banking apps, and that helps rural consumers to open bank accounts, transact, borrow, or save money with an assistant journey. Ram, first, I'd love to hear more about Mahagram. What motivated you? How did you decide to do it? Mahagram itself is a fascinating name. And then we come to the problem of what is it that you're really solving for? Because this is at the heart of the India that we don't want to get left behind. Over to you.
Thank you, Subi, for the introduction. So, as you said rightly, the internet in rural India and everywhere, of course, has penetrated well. And it is utilized for a lot of good purposes as well as the wrong one. It hasn't solved the rural problem yet, actual problem. If you see, mobile phones are currently in the hands of teens in rural India, and the decision makers in rural India are plus 40 plus or 30 plus. They don't have smartphones. They have feature phones. So that's where the role of Mahagram comes in. So the people who resides in rural India, maybe I call it a growth market, because that's where everybody wants to get in one day, right? Take it a Reliance or maybe the small player like Noise. Maybe I assume your sales must be at least 30% from rural. I'm sure about it. So that's how it is, right? So the role of Mahagram comes in where the people of rural India doesn't understand the technology. They don't understand the long forms that they fill with the brokers or the banks. Right, they are afraid of filling the forms, filling the documents. They don't know how to do it, and then they have to go into the bank and maybe ask the banker babu, like, how do you feel this, or what information needs to be filled here, what is a nominee, what is this, what is that. And signature is again a big problem because they majorly do not know how to sign the documents. So what we do is we partner with the banks, like nationalized and private sector banks. We partner with them, and we have created a proprietary technology which we call as assisted banking model, or you call it agency banking. Currently it is known as business correspondent, if you are aware about. Jan Dhan Yojana has happened. That was the entire brainchild of this entire idea. So what we do is we partner with the bank. We create a technology which connects to the bank's core banking system, and we partner with the Khurana stores across the country. So every village, wherever the human resides, they need to buy something, and there is a Kirana store. So we thought a Kirana store could be the right touch point for us to engage with and offer basic banking services to the citizen. So we partner with the Kirana store, and through which the Kirana store is able to access mobile phone. Of course, we train them. It's very small, smart, basic phone which they can use, and the app is installed, and through that app they can open a bank account of a customer, just like we as urban people book a flight, and then there's a journey insurance like 250 rupees additional, and we with a check, just a check box, we buy the insurance. So similarly in rural India, what happens is a lady comes to the Kirana store and says ki bhaiya 1 kilo aloo, 2 kilo pyaj or 5,000 rupees cash de do. That's simple as this, right? So the women or the man of the house goes to the Kirana store and asks for 5,000 rupees from his bank account, whatever he might have received for. He wants to withdraw money by, of course, there is no ATM machines across the country, even though NPCI and RuPay and everybody around the fintech says ki RuPay card is now strongly penetrated, but it is not activated. The PIN mailers are yet to be sent because the if you know the guidelines, card can be activated only on ATM first. So there is no infrastructure, and there is no availability of infra, as well as my customers' inability to transact on those modern technologies. So what we allow him to transact with is ease. Like he can come with the Aadhaar card and just offer share the Aadhaar number and tell us the bank's name. And by putting a fingerprint on a fingerprint reader, we can allow him to withdraw money or deposit money with ease. Alternatively, of course, there are QR, there is ATM card, there are some multiple methods. We also offer like OTP-based deposits. So this is all the banking activities banking services that we offer to them doorstep. Of course, doorstep is like an next door shop, and that's how we create the wellness for this families, because they get money whenever they need without losing it. So if you know, earlier women used to save money in some dibba like aate mein rakh diya, chawal mein rakh diya, right? And then the women ends up spending that money because kid know the place. Usko pata hai wo stash kahan hai, right? The money is stashed there, so he knows, and he says, I want to buy this, and there is a money kept. You can't lie me now. So she end up giving that money, and she's not able to save that money. Even the husbands know ki ye paise kahan rakhti hai. So we have offered them the recurring deposit product, where whenever they get this daily wages paid, they can simply go to the Kirana store to buy whatever they want to. Like another example, now buy एक milk का packet दे दो Parle G biscuit दे दो और ये 2,000 रुपए deposit कर दो. So simple as that. It's like a one transaction. So the cash is a commodity for us. We sell it, we accept it, not as a cash. We accept it as a product. So that's how it is. So currently, if I were just quickly, I'll finish up on the numbers maybe, so that will help you understand the scale. We disburse more than 1,000 crore a month in cash to the customers. That's how, I mean, if you people know the digital has increased, but if you look at the reports, cash has equally increased because the digital payment that you look at the number, that also includes the ATM transaction, and ATM is producer of cash. So that's how it is. And we have more than 4.5 lakh Khurana stores onboarded on the platform. And that's where we help the consumer to access to basic banking services without being afraid to visit the bank branch, losing the traveling time, money, and everything. That's how it is. Thank you so much.
Shriram, thank you so much. What a wonderful story that is, so uplifting and truly empowering. And I have a zillion questions already for you on trust and on access and infrastructure. But hold that thought. And we'll just hear from everyone once. We'll go around the table. But very, very interesting. Once you're unlocking platforms, it's just you've got access, and there's so much more in terms of layering that we can do and we can build on top. So love to hear more. I now want to turn to Pulkit, and Pulkit solving for a really, really important problem. I believe the Supreme Court's recently urged that we all work from home, at least 50% of us. And this is a very, very serious issue. We've just got 2 cities topping the list of some of the most polluted cities in the world. And Pulkit, very interestingly, I had a stint with Yes Bank, and we were putting together a report for Niti Aayog on electric vehicles. And the Move Summit happened, and many of us have celebrated. So from very interesting models across China, where the state would come down very strongly, and then you're sitting in a city like Delhi, where cars truly matter. So how is the electric vehicles journey coming along? A special note about Pulkit founded Battery Smart, and it is solving for EV adoption. Some of the most critical problems, when we started out, we were extremely euphoric, but the essential question that these are not labs in California. You're looking at heat, you're looking at temperature, you're looking at sustainability, you're looking at authenticity. So the swapping problem of batteries, and they're doing about 5,000 in terms of numbers daily. And that's a very, very impressive number. So over to you, Pulkit. Not just from, understanding supply chains, but putting together your head for something which is very, very pertinent. How did you do this? What is it that you're solving for? And what are the challenges that you're trying to address?
Thank you for that. Thanks for the introduction. Pollution every year, just October and November, we become very conscious about pollution, right? And the rest of the year, we are still driving our diesel guzzlers. Every year, and at least for last 5-6 years, there has been a lot of talk about EV adoption. Now with Olas and Aethers of the world doing so much marketing, and we think a lot of EVs must be selling. Surprisingly, less than 1% two-wheelers sold this year were electric. So there are a lot of challenges around EV adoption, and anyone you talk to or from personal experience, if you were to buy an EV, your first question is, where would I charge it? You're anxious about range if you're going out. Even if there were a lot of charging points, would you wait at a petrol pump for 4 hours to charge your vehicle? So that is something which is still unanswered. The downtime problem, especially for commercial use case. Let's say a Swiggy or Zomato driver that comes to your house, he has to run 12 to 14 hours. Can he afford to go back to his home and charge his vehicle for 4 hours, 3 hours? Can he afford to spend, say, 30 to 40,000 rupees every 2-3 years just to replace his battery? So all those still remain unanswered, and those were the things that motivated us to kind of solve that. And what we thought was that, why can't EVs be very close to how we drive our petrol vehicles? You should go to a location, just exchange your batteries. It takes 2 minutes. You're ready for the next 100 kilometers. You should not own the battery. Let the network own the batteries. Let us worry about the life of battery, charging it, disposing it, carefully taking care that it goes to a sustainable cycle of reuse and recycle, right? And let us provide you the best batteries possible out there. And you should be able to drive your vehicle as much as possible. And we'll open a very dense network, right? So that wherever you are, there is a station, let's say within 1 kilometer. You're not afraid that you'll run out. So with that objective, last year in June, we started battery swapping network, and we named it Battery Smart. The first market we have gone after is e-rickshaws. Again, something which we see all the time, especially people from Delhi would know. But we don't recognize them as electric vehicles. We only think about the Teslas of the world. And there are already 2.5 million, 25 lakh e-rickshaws on the road. And these are 85% of the EVs in India, whether registered or unregistered, they are electric, right? No one has been solving for them either. So they became our first customers, the first target market. The next ones were Swiggy and Zomato drivers. As you mentioned in my intro, we're doing 5,000 battery swaps every day across 150 locations just in Delhi NCR. And it's only been 18 months. We've been lucky to solve a lot of problems during that journey. Still very early days, a lot to be solved. We have to solve for cars, we have to solve for buses, we have to solve for cargo vehicles as well. But the goal is to enable EV adoption, right? If we can do a small part in making it easier for everyone to be on EVs, not just pollution, right? It's also more sustainable from an income perspective, for India as an economy to be less reliant on fuel imports. And it's a $600 billion opportunity in India, right? We are the largest two-wheeler consumers in the world. So I think very fascinating times, given the government push, given the awareness, and the next 4 to 5 years, India should become the EV capital in the world.
Thank you, and amen to that. What a powerful statement, and something that we can all rally behind. I turn to Rashi now, and with great pleasure. Rashi Gupta has been the co-founder of Rezo.ai. AI is something that you'll hear a lot of conversation about, and there were, of course, the doomsayers who said it's here and automation is here and jobs are going, and what about competitive advantage? And I'm sure Rashi will have a lot to say about that. Rezo is an AI-powered contact center that is helping brands run their operations 24/7, and it is reducing costs. Prior to Rezo.ai, Rashi has worked with Jain as an assistant professor. She set up an AI practice for absolute data and WNS. She graduated from LSR, holds a double master's from IIT Delhi and a PhD from University of Helsinki, Finland in 2009. Rashi, bases the work that you've been doing. First, tell us about Rezo. It's very, very interesting that you look at a journey from academia to business. And that again is truly inspiring because it's very easy for us to put people in boxes. How did your entrepreneurship journey come about? Why AI? And there's again a lot of conversation where sometimes it's a fad, sometimes a lot gets written about, but we're very seriously seeing the impact of AI across different sectors. So would love to hear more about it. And then again, the conversation about how do you really adopt technology? How does it become all pervasive? Some of those thoughts around the initial fear and resistance to change and adoption. Over to you, Rashi. Very, very excited to hear.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. At Rezo, what we are doing is we're trying to automate the overall contact center, right? So Rezo is primarily an AI-powered contact center. When I say that, what I mean is any activity that happens in a typical contact center that could be, reverting to the emails from the customers, you get a lot of phone calls from the brand, about the service and all that kind of stuff. So what we try to do is we try to operate a contact center. It's more like a humanless contact center, right? So and it's all driven by the power of AI and technology. When I say humanless, I'm not trying to say that, it all depends, right? How do you want to leverage it, right? We have currently a set of 5 people running the show. But obviously there is a tech team because it's a whole platform that we have built. But what we are bringing on the table for the enterprises is, for the agents, they now need to move from a generalist sort of a attitude that they had to a more specialist sort of an attitude. For the brand, it's a large, operational cost cut down, right? And for the end consumer, it is basically moving on to the excellence, like the service excellence that we've been looking day in and day out, right? You reach out to a brand and you're talking to people who are just doing their jobs, right? But they are not reverting to the question that you're asking, like the front ending, right? but his time is precious, right? So what we try to do is we bring out the resolution to you, right, in a minimalistic time, all powered by AI technology. It's up to the brand. We could work. There are some queries which could be directly end-to-end automated, end-to-end, right? Customer status, like you have a delivery parcel coming to you, what's the status? So you could actually automate all of that. But then there are, some serious grievances, right? We are not saying that AI will do that. So it's a very nice balance that we bring in, something which is a pain for a human agent to do day in and day out. We take that off the plate. Something that is the need of the hour for the end consumer to talk to a human agent. We work in an assisted sort of a manner with the human agent to be able to serve the end customer nicer in a lesser duration. So that's what Rezo currently works. We are serving, we are currently operating at a pace of like 1,000 people contact center, right? So all powered by AI and technology.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rashi. And we'll come back to the questions of what really motivated you, what inspired you to pick up AI, and also the perceptual battles that you have to fight. One, as an entrepreneur, and second, why the understanding of technology takes so long in terms of adoption. We clearly understand the benefits that you're helping larger brands as well as smaller brands connect. I'm sure the audience has questions. The floor has questions. I request you to keep them ready. We will come to you soon. I hear some chatter across the floor. We have some wonderful people on the panel. Let us give them the time and respect. It'll be great to hold your questions and those thoughts till we come to you and open the floor, and I'll certainly come back to you. With that, I turn to Gaurav, and Gaurav is someone you're very, very familiar with. You're also seeing a lot of his products. When I'm scrolling through some of my favorite destinations, Gaurav, we were just joking about how did you start making noise? And of course, I think it's something that you'd get probably a lot. So Gaurav's the co-founder of India's largest smart wearables brand, Noise. I think we can make some noise for that. It's been a long day. Everyone should wake up and listen to a story that's coming from India. So a lot of these brands where you've argued, why do you not have great aesthetics? Why do you not have great electronic products? This is a very, very competitive market. So to be able to do that and tell that story really well, very, very proud of the work that you're doing, Gaurav. He's established it with a vision to redefine how India imagines connected devices. And Noise has managed to create a great mark on the market already with its impressive lineup of products in the smart wearables and the hearable category. They've also been recognized as India's #1 wearable watch brand for last 6 quarters by IDC. They've been reinforcing their position as a category leader, and their constant aim is to benchmark in the industry with the wide partnership and offering that they're developing. It's a brand that we can all celebrate and be proud of, comes from India. Gaurav, tell us one about your entrepreneurial journey. How did you start? What is it that you're trying to solve for? And we started earlier in the day with talking about a brand with purpose. Is that something that you're looking at, or our bottom lines and distribution and supply platforms is what you're chasing today? Over to you, Gaurav.
Thank you so much, first of all, for the great intro. So honestly, when we started, the brand was started with a vision, probably with I think the personal problem that, as in my early 20s, that I had, right? You're looking for products anywhere in the market that are related to a young Indian consumer. You would end up probably getting either the global brands or the Chinese knockoff, right? And that's when probably the mind clicked for me that why not an Indian brand can be part of it. It was then we interacted with a lot of people at my age, understanding what a young millennial and a Gen Z consumer actually wants, right? Those experiences, those aesthetics, a product that has been made for an Indian user was not available in the market, right? And that's where we saw the opportunity, and we really wanted to make the technological products, the gadgets, the connected lifestyle gadgets more accessible to the young Indian consumer, because Today, everybody knows in our family also, right? Any product that you have to buy in technology, the decision has to be coming from your someone who is between 15 to 25 year age, right? So tapping to the right audience, creating the right product for them was the key, probably that we started with, making it more accessible. Of course, distribution is one of the the lever that will give you the growth and other stuff. But overall, it is about what you're trying to solve, what you're trying to deliver is the key for any business that we also believed in and trying to solve it for the young consumer.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much. And how did noise happen, and why did you think of the name noise per se?
The name, honestly, it came because we all are surrounded with a lot of noise, right? And it always connects to a negative thought, but a lot of time we also need to understand there is a noise that is inside us, right? That is telling us to do something right. And believing in that is what and how we came up the name. And again, it's quirky name and it more resonates to the young audience. This is the primary reason that we came up with. About how, again, like I said, it's more of a personal problem that we were trying to solve, and hence probably we could do it better than the competition that we have.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gaurav, and more power to you. I now come to Amrita, and it's been so delightful to have a panel that sees representation from feisty, determined, passionate women entrepreneurs. And this is a fantastic story that I'm truly inspired to share with you. Amrita is the founder and CEO of the Tribe Concepts. It's an all-natural, Ayurvedic, sustainable skincare brand. There are many other brands that you hear of today, and they have a lot of advertising dollars. And yet you're seeing something that's organic, that's looking at sustainability, that's looking at Ayurveda. It's not just a fad. When you started rediscovering yoga and you started looking at impact, Amrita, I love to read my shampoo cartons and bottles for fun. And now there are apps that are talking about good brands and bad brands. And a lot of young people now are making those choices very consciously. Amrita's brand talks about going back to the roots. She talks about natural alternatives to the new age customer. Prior to starting TTC, Amrita worked with ACT FiberNet. Again, a fantastic story to tell. How do you connect a large part of India? How do you bring in high-speed fiber? She set up the entire payment infrastructure for the ACT group. She holds a master's in finance from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management. And this, again, is a very inspiring story, Amrita. So over to you. Tell us about your journey. Tell us how did this come about? Why the Tribe Concepts? What are you trying to solve for? And also, again, a question that I've wondered, how does tech make beauty accessible? And we've seen the Nykaa story. So, and it's too tall and very proud. So I hope that we're headed in a fantastic direction. Over to you, Amrita.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I just want to give a small intro about the Tribe Concepts. So the Tribe Concepts is an organic skincare brand. So you will ask, like, there are a lot of organic skincare brands, like what is so different about your brand? So first of all, I feel that today there are a lot of brands in the market that are talking about ingredients that are not so Indian. The idea of our brand was to take Indian ingredients to the world. There are a lot of Indian forgotten ingredients like saffron, like, there are some ingredients that people don't know, like Kashmiri and Himalayan Shilajit. So these are the ingredients that we wanted to take out to the world, and which is the intention that we started the Tribe Concepts. We wanted it to be 100% natural brand. It's been 2 years that we started this brand, and it's been one of the fastest growing organic skincare brands in the country today. And you were very right when you told that the young gen has been taking natural, organic, and sustainable these days. And that's really glad that that the current generation is accepting the natural products, organic and sustainable products. And I would like to state one thing that, 3 years back, when we are talking about startups, it's mostly about tech-based startups with, everyone talking about Amazon, Facebook and all. today I'm so glad exactly what you mentioned. We are talking about Nykaa and we are talking about Sugar Cosmetics. We are talking about Mama Earth, and beauty brands are doing very well. And I would love to completely give the credit to technology. So if this is what we are able to do in a short span, it's all about technology. The Tribe Concepts is a 2-year-old brand. It's a back to roots brand. It's a product which our grandmothers use. And if we were able to convince today's consumer to use the back to roots brand, and technology is something that helped us construct this. And until last month, which is like almost like 23 months, we were 100% online brand. So, which is how I would say, it really helped us. And yes, the main idea of our brand is to take the sustainable, organic Indian brand to the world and set up tribe concepts across the globe. Yes.
Thank you, Amrita. More power to you. And like I said, we're really hoping to see this journey prosper and may 1,000 flowers bloom. This is, again, not just a brand. And that's why I said it's so inspiring to share the panel with people who figured out their problem statements, who are also putting not just the fact that they're growing and they're developing, but good causes, building brands with purpose. And I think when we started, we also talked about how post-pandemic, our entire world changed. So when you look at technology, the ideas of technological determinism, is it technology or is it the medium that will become the message? We've celebrated a lot of good things about the internet. I think it bridges us, it builds boundaries. But when we're looking at the pandemic, the questions also were who was getting left behind, right? And a huge segment, when you looked at the migrant workers, when you looked at children being out of school, about 168 million children globally are out of school. One incidence of poverty or illness in your family can set you back by several years. So micro-lending institutions and the presence of outlets and apps and stories like Mahagram are truly, truly essential. One of the concerns also that we often discuss is digital literacy. Are we looking at now technology widening the digital divide? And Ram, those are some of the questions that I had for you when you started looking at Mahagram, right? At the heart of a lot of what we're doing is a personal passion, and that's why I'd love to know why is it that you even looked at this problem and how are you solving for digital trust?
Absolutely. So trust, I guess we'll talk later because that's very wide and it's very individual, and there are a lot of divides: urban, rural, educated, non-educated. Even sometimes it is caste, and a lot of factors are there for a trust. Take even an example of online brands nowadays. How many people goes to eBay? How many people goes to OLX? How many people goes to maybe, I'm talking about those products where the trust is very, 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 very important. How I started, how I got into this kind of business is, of course, I tried maybe more than 12 businesses, just like every entrepreneur does. Maybe sometimes they do it in mind, and sometimes they reach to a prototype, sometimes MVPs, and maybe the successful startup. So that's how my journey was. I belong to a very small village in Maharashtra. So I completed my schooling from there. Then I went to a city like Aurangabad, and I personally thought of, okay, I'm built for a business. That's what I had in mind, and I tried different ideas. Of course, I started selling. Maybe I sold first toast door to door. These braids. I tried that. I sold chemicals in every industry going. This maintenance chemicals and everything. I thought to do something around it. So I had one vision in mind that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So no field actually was making sense to me. Everything works for me. Like, I'll try this, I'll try that. And then somehow one of maybe just like this guys, BW, I happened to be in India Today's office. I came up with the idea, there are some companies who are struggling with the management skills. So there is a program every industry or every company runs called a continuous improvement program. So there was one company, a manufacturing unit, a big one in Aurangabad. So I thought, why not to maybe have a continuous improvement program here? And I help them with the literature to maybe read, to go through on every monthly basis. So I came up with the idea to start giving them magazines. So I visited India today. I said, okay, I'll sell you this many magazines and you give me this X percentage of commission, vagera, vagera. Because the idea behind this was I used to look up to Richard Branson as idol. So he started his magazine first. Now I wanted to start my own magazine. Now how to get into the magazine? To understand that business, I started selling magazine first. So I came reverse. Rather than producing product, I started selling first. So I know the math. Now I can just manufacture it. So that's how it was. I was, I guess, in 12th that time in my college days, maybe early. That's how that's how the journey started. So I belong to a rural village. I know how people struggle to open these bank account and all. So when I was in India today, I came back with on a flight. And I took some sample magazines with me, and I read a story about Fino in the magazine. So Fino was opening bank account in the Mela, which was happening in Varanasi. Like they were opening bank account in 5 minutes, and I was struggling to open that magazine sales business current account since 25 days. So I thought, where am I living, right? I don't know what is happening in this Mela. So I went through the story. I got in every detail of that particular business, and I said, okay, I think this could be something for me. Then I visited, I took one more flight and I went to Bombay and I went to a bank. Okay, I want to do this. This is what I think I should do. And then they came up with, okay, you need a non-profit company to run this. So we started as a non-profit first. So we were Mahagram Foundation. We did some Jan Dhan Yojana and all this Aadhaar card stuff with the government. And that's how we improved our technology. We improved our team. We hired a lot of talent with us and we built this network. And now we are a bootstrap and still making revenues for us. It's been 5 years and we have been, I guess our GTV is more than 1,000 crore a month now. So that's how the journey was.
Thank you.
And answering your trust factor here, right? So, in rural area, if you look at which is the biggest insurance company who sells insurance in rural, it's LIC.
I believe, yeah.
It's LIC, right? Yeah, maybe, I don't know, everywhere it could be, but rural, it's LIC and they have no office. Like people doesn't visit the insurance company's office to buy insurances. They don't have cashback offers. They don't have any goodies. They don't have any advertising. Who maybe these people understand. Only one line they understand is Zindagi ke saath bhi aur baat bhi. That's it. And now these insurance agents who them by the name, not as an insurance agent, you know them as Sharma, Verma, Gupta, Shukla, Shinde, like that. Similarly, in my case, I personally believe this Khurana store you see are undocumented, undeclared NBFCs. I'll tell you why. If you look at your Khurana store, wherever you buy on a regular basis, so I'll give it my example maybe. The Khurana store in my society downstairs, he gives us some material like coffee vagera on monthly basis. Mom says, okay, ye bhej do, bhej deta hai. Bisleri ka that water jar, he sends every day. One fine day I was coming from office and mom knows ki once I'm back, maybe everybody loves coffee after the hectic day. So she said ki coffee khatam ho gayi hai, aate hue le aana. I said, fine. I don't have cash. So मैं नीचे गया दुकान के सामने गाड़ी रोका and I asked that guy कि brother give me that coffee and I just took it and I started moving away from the store. He said भैया पैसे दे दो. I said घर से ले लेना बोलता है मुझे नहीं पता आप कौन हो. I said what the hell, I pay you every month, right? 7,000-8,000 rupees bill hota, I pay you every month and this is the first time I came to your door and you're asking me money every time you come to my door. So what is this? Then I said, ठीक है, आप ये flat number X में भेज दो. Then I went home. He came and I said, अभी मुझे दे दिया. बोलता हाँ सर, मुझे नहीं पता था आप यहाँ पे रहते हो. So I said, what the? You don't know my address. I mean, you don't know me. So you have zero KYC. You have approved me 8,000 rupees credit limit. And this is the format everywhere, not just urban, even in rural. If you look at the rural people, they also buy udhar, and on a weekly basis, whenever they get paid, they pay back that money. So we thought this Khurana store can be if they are an undocumented NBFC, I guess we can legalize them. We have a power being a regulated entity under the business correspondent model of RBI. We partnered with the Khurana store. We gave them the credit limit of say 50,000 rupees. So whatever their capacity was to offer credit to the customer on Udhar, now that has doubled up. And the customer base has increased. Yeah. And that's where the trust factor comes in. If the shopkeeper is trusting the customer for Udhar, the customer gives that back. And that's where we are banking on that, the trust of each other. Right.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you so much. Very, very uplifting. And thank you for delivering so much passion to the panel. I'm sure if any energies were sagging in this room, we're back on our feet. I want to come to you, Pranav, and I think we started with you. I'd love to hear a little more about WorldGrad. And many times, the question is access to education and what is it that you expect the government to do by way of support, not just for education, but also for you as an entrepreneur. So what would be your top two asks, let's say, of the government? And why is it that we need someone like you? What is the WorldGrad story?
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for that. And you talked about how the pandemic has affected so many people, etc. But I want to, so the way I describe the WorldGrad, we are an online education company. We started about 4 years back when online education was still a very, very nascent term. Right, today it's become a very household term and it's a very acceptable form of education. But we're an online education firm. The problem statement, very simply, we're trying to solve is India still remains a big source of students who are wanting to go overseas to study. There's sometimes a negative perception around there, but I think there's no issue with that. It's in fact a great story that there is so much aspiration in the country to sort of explore opportunities. The reality remains, as with so many other markets, that the sort of aspiration group of people who want to go overseas is about 6, 7, 10 times of people who are actually able to access overseas education. Right. The problem, there are 2 or 3 key problems that we're trying to solve, and which is why the WorldGrad exists. The single biggest reason is cost, or at least the single biggest apparent reason is cost, because education overseas is expensive, right? Plain and simple. The second reason, which is not as apparent, but is actually way bigger, is that one of the reasons why students aspire to go overseas is because there is this halo around, the Western system of education is so much better, so much more liberal, etc., etc. And it is true to an extent where, when a typical student from, your tier 2 school transitions to a year 1 university in an Australia or a US or Canada or the UK, that transition is so tough. We are sort of surrounded by people who are, I'm sure people in this group and in this room, know people who've gone to Ivy Leagues and know they're doing great things in life. But the reality is 90% of the students are not going to the Ivy Leagues of the world. And most people are shocked to realize that 1 in 3 students who travel overseas end up failing in their first semester. Right? And the sort of psychological and financial shock that causes to parents and students is immense. Right? So the second reason why students struggle is this sort of big academic and just environmental gap that exists between what students are experiencing in, let's say, a class 12 here and when they go to a year 1 in any of these countries. And that's really what we're trying to solve. And so what we've done very interestingly is we've said, look, students want to go overseas. How do we make this more accessible? We have now over the last 4 years, taught over 20,000 plus students. And what we've really excelled in is saying, okay, how can you deliver high quality education to students online? Online is not about taking a classroom, recording it and putting it on Zoom. That's unfortunately what's happened in the last 2 years, but online is so much more, right? There's so much more science and math that goes beyond it. So what we've done in the last 4 years is we've been able to exhibit to education institutes around the world that we can deliver high quality, degree quality education online. And what we've done is we've partnered with them and convinced these education institutes to allow us to teach a part of their degree to students while they're still in the country. So what that happens is if you're a student, want to go to the US, a 4-year undergrad, you study a year here, go to the US and study your 3 years there, right? It gives you a significant academic advantage because you study the US curriculum whilst you're still at home. So you don't have to worry about as an 18-year-old, mujhe khana kya hai, mujhe rehna kya hai, mere dost kaun hai, right? You're staying with family. It's a significant academic advantage to you as well, right? And what this does is, it's amazing the kind of stories we see. These students are not students who are coming from wealthy business families. These are parents who are pouring in their life savings, who are mortgaging their houses for sending that student because, हमारे परिवार में कोई बाहर नहीं गया है. So we need someone to go outside and do well in life. And these are students who may have otherwise not been able to access that quality of education. And so, coming back to your question, that's really what why we exist and what I'm very proud of in terms of, I think we've been able to make this overseas education accessible to a large number of students and parents and families, really, over the last years that we've been operating.
Thank you, Pranav. Thank you for doing what you do. I do want to see a show of hands. Are there any questions for our panelists from the floor? Anything from the audience? Anyone has a question? Yeah. Feel free to raise your hand, identify yourself if you have a question or a comment. Meanwhile, while you gather your thought, Ujjwal, can I turn to you? We did speak about unlocking the potential of markets. And we've seen a lot of retail investors, we've seen housewives now adopting technology, right? So is there a program to skill? And again, the same question for you. Is there something, if you had one ask from the government as an entrepreneur, as someone who's unlocking the potential of tech, what would it be?
So one of the things with equities market, it's very intimidating for most of the people. Like, it's not easy. Like, even I am like been only in markets for like more than now 12 years after my engineering. If you ask me whether I know whether Nifty will move in next 1 month, I don't know. So that's the beauty of markets. But the other exciting part is market changes life. Like, if you invest wisely, I mean, I come from a background, lower middle class background. I have seen how my father has changed his fortunes in financial crisis. And that's what made me passionate about markets. Computer science comes naturally to me. So that's what got into my entrepreneurial journey. But yeah, coming to the question. So one of the things is that we are in a space where we are talking about platforms driving equities market penetration. So on one side, we have brokers who are commoditized, broking account opening, digital onboarding. Thanks to Government of India, that's pretty accessible now. The other part is now, which we are trying to solve, is the advisory layer. So SEBI, interestingly, has done a tremendous job since 2013 when first regulatory framework came around, advisory-based distribution. Now, most of the people here won't know that India has largely been led by distributors. Like, you must have got that mutual fund because that distributor wanted to sell you that mutual fund. Not that's the mutual fund you should have in your investment account. So that's how India has been. Now, thanks to regulators, whether you talk about mutual fund distribution, whether you talk about like the general markets, how SEBI wants that the distribution of products should be around advisory, which means that customer will pay the money to an advisor for what they bring to the table in their investment account, not implicitly making money from the end customer on the distribution side. So that thing has changed. And for that matter, like, we as a business, when we started, we were not sure that premium portfolios for retail investors for a cost, will the customer pay for that fee? Because when you buy a mutual fund, there's an implicit cost which goes to the distributor, you don't even know. And we are asking the customer to pay for that. Now, why somebody buys the Ayurvedic product, that's a physical product. But when it comes to equity investing, people think it's the free mein milna chahiye.
Absolutely.
So, but good part is premium portfolio managers are coming on our platform. They bring value to the retail money. And on Paytms of the world, where we are also live, there we see 5,000 rupees portfolio like created investor who could not have accessed that portfolio, which is given to an ultra HNI. So that's the bridge we have that bridge we have fulfilled. So yeah, so from a government point of view, I think they need to, because we are a multi-sided platform. On one side, we have advisors, on the other side, we have brokers. So we sort of, in an area where SEBI is also trying to learn. So we hope that they will be always positive about the platform play. And I think government regulators are very forward-looking these days. So I think, yeah, so that should continue. That's what we want.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ujjwal. And I'm certain that they're listening, and through the power of media and several platforms that the group owns, you will certainly be heard. I want to turn to you, Pulkit, now. So I know I'm very, very conscious of time. We want to hear final closing comments and Twitter statements. What is it that would be your top ask? I know you're solving a really, really important cause. We've heard the fact that it's extremely essential for us. It's no longer a choice. What is it that one thing that you'd go to the government with? And what is a commitment that your brand puts out, both in terms of equity? Over to you.
I'll be super brief, not holding people back from their evening coffees and teas. So super happy about what the government is already doing, right? Last couple of years, especially Niti Aayog, they have been super aggressive about EV adoption, bringing in a lot of schemes. FAME was a magic for the industry, right? Now vehicles are almost at par to their IC counterparts in terms of TCO or total cost of ownership throughout the life. Lot of subsidies there. Now the PLI scheme has come, which is where India will now start manufacturing cells. These are cells that go inside every battery. So far, we have only been importing it from China. We have been reliant on their supply chain. So that is also again already happening. More than 18,000 crore has been earmarked for that. For indigenous production should start within a year or so. No major ask. I think Niti Aayog is something which really here, and a couple of subsidies we have been asking for swapping and so on. But I don't think it's very relevant for audience, and very confident that the government is doing the right things that it should, and very strong intent behind EV adoption.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pulkit. And Rashi, I want to turn to you and quickly in terms of looking at the cloud that surrounds AI as tech. And certainly there's a lot of conversation. One, as you grow to build your business, is purpose or giving back to society an active thought that you put together? And what is it that one ask would be of yours from the company?
So definitely, I think as far as giving back to the society, that's always in your mind when you're working towards. It's not only the revenue that we look at. The idea is to build something which is innovative, which is going to be empowering people at the end of the day, cutting down their pain point at the moment. Cutting down not only the pain point for the end people, but also the people who have built these large brands, right? Who are growing and upward and onward. How do you what the technology that you're building, how can that support that whole ecosystem? Can you detour from your regular path of what you are doing? Can technology just be so innovative to be able to aid and to be able to support what you're doing without causing any disruption, right? So that is very important. As far as the Indian government is concerned, they're doing a fab job. I think there have been so many they're reaching out to extremely upcoming startups, they're truly into the natural language processing. They're trying to do so much vernacular. And I think even the college students, the kind of portfolios, the kind of, conferences they are holding, how they're reaching out to the young entrepreneurs. I think even a fresh graduate from the college or somebody's in the 12th, I've been to conferences and debates where, all of them are getting a say, right, to basically come forward. So I think they're really empowering today the young minds. And if that happens, I think we are looking at a next level of
Thank you.
building.
Thank you, Rashi. And Gaurav, last thoughts from you. How do you feel about the future?
Honestly, we are all fortunate that we are living in this country where we have 150 billion audience. So any business, anything, if you just do it right with the right audience, we all will see the potential to grow in any category, any business it is. So I just feel the future is bright for all of us. The way government is also changing the policies and making it more comfortable for businesses to get in. I think it's all good.
Talking about the future of beauty industry, I just would like to say that, this is just the beginning, and, we are really looking forward to how this acceptance will be taken forward in the near future. Yes.
Thank you, Amrita.
And I'm glad that the ecosystem of beauty startups has just started, and it has a lot more to do. Yeah.